The stage lights were sharp, bright enough to make every movement feel like it mattered. The show had just started, and Jasmine Crockett owned the room. She sat straight, dressed in a bold green blazer, lips painted the color of certainty, her hands moving with grace every time she made a point. Host Michael Hayes welcomed viewers across the country. Tonight, we're joined by Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett and former national security official Patel. His voice was smooth and trained, but even he leaned slightly toward Crockett, pulled in by her energy. She didn't wait. From her first sentence, her voice was calm, confident, and filled with subtle fire. "We live in a country where people mistake loud voices for leadership," she said. The audience clapped. "But sound without sense? That's just noise." It wasn't hard to know who she meant. Patel, sitting next to her, didn't respond. His suit was dark, crisp, perfectly in place. His face didn't move. Not a smile, not a blink too long. He didn't react. He didn't need to. The debate moved quickly. Topics switched from national security to media bias to representation in government. Crockett spoke smoothly, mixing sharp arguments with soft sarcasm. She had the audience laughing, nodding, clapping on cue. Then it happened. A small joke. A passing comment. "You know," she said with a chuckle, "some people just sit there and stare like clowns at the circus, quiet, but colorful." Her smile widened. She didn't name anyone. She didn't have to. Laughter erupted. A few people even stood to clap. Patel didn't move. His hand rested on the glass table. His fingers tapped once, then twice, and stopped. The cameras didn't catch it right away, but one lens, on the left side of the stage, shifted focus. For a second it cut to the audience. Third row. Seat 5. There he was. An older man, gray suit, clean-shaven, sitting stiffly with both hands on his knees. A small badge with 3 stars sat on his chest. His expression was blank, but his eyes were locked on Jasmine. He didn't blink. He didn't smile. He just stared. No one noticed him yet. Not the audience, not the commentators, and not Jasmine Crockett. But Patel did. He glanced toward the third row for just a moment. A flicker, a flash of recognition. Then he looked down at his pen again. The atmosphere shifted. Not much. Just enough to make the air feel heavier, as if everyone in the room knew something was off, but couldn't say what. Michael Hayes sensed it too. He cleared his throat. "Strong words tonight," he said, attempting to lighten the mood. "But Ms. Crockett, let's talk about unity. How do we bring the country back together?" She smiled, leaned forward, and began her answer. Her voice was steady. She didn't notice the shift. Not yet. But behind the cameras, the director whispered to a technician, "Who's in seat 3 to 5? He's not on the guest list." "No name registered," the tech replied. "No photo on the pass either." Back on stage, Jasmine kept talking. "The problem isn't the people. It's the system that chooses who gets to speak and who stays silent." Patel turned his head slowly. Not toward the host. Not toward Jasmine. He looked back to the third row. The man's eyes were still, locked on Jasmine. He clenched his fists once, then released. Somewhere in the control room, someone pulled up old government archives, scanned faces, checked for matches. The match was partial, but the name that came up sent a shiver through the technician's spine. Jasper Crockett. A man with a classified history. A man who disappeared over a decade ago. A man presumed dead. And Jasmine had no idea he was watching her. The audience continued to enjoy the show. They laughed when she joked. They clapped when she spoke with power. But in that third row, everything had stopped. He wasn't clapping. He wasn't smiling. And Patel, known for being composed under pressure, had begun clicking his pen again. Once. Twice. Then he leaned slightly forward and looked toward the camera. His voice was soft but firm. "Sometimes," he said, "the ones we dismiss in public are the ones we fear most in silence." Jasmine turned to him, raising an eyebrow. But before she could speak, the show cut to commercial. Inside the auditorium, the lights dimmed just slightly, and in the shadows of the third row, Jasper Crockett lifted his head. His daughter still hadn't seen him, but she would, soon. And when she did, the joke would no longer be funny. It would be the start of something no one could control. Let me know when you're ready for part 2, or if you'd like a YouTube script adaptation or voiceover narration format for this part. A network error occurred. Please check your connection and try again. If this issue persists, please contact us through our help center at help.openai.com. The broadcast had gone to commercial, but the studio wasn't quiet. Producers rushed behind the scenes, whispering into headsets. Camera operators adjusted angles. The host, Michael Hayes, flipped through his cue cards, eyes flicking between the panelists and the mysterious man in the third row. No one said his name yet, but 2 floors above the studio, inside the network's internal security room, they were already trying to confirm it. Jasper Crockett, former intelligence officer, disappeared during the Benghazi intelligence collapse. Declared dead. No funeral, no press release. Just gone. And now, he was sitting 15 feet from his daughter, America's rising political star. Down on stage, Jasmine sat casually, sipping water, unaware. Cash Patel, however, was not. He leaned back in his chair, silent again. But his eyes kept drifting toward the audience, toward that man. Jasmine noticed Patel's glance. "You still thinking about that clown comment?" She joked, her voice low enough not to carry to the audience yet. Patel didn't smile. "I'm thinking about ghosts," he replied. She gave him a curious look. "Still trying to play mysterious?" "No," he said. "Just wondering how long it'll take you to see what everyone else already does." Before she could respond, the red light on the main camera came back on. "We're live in 3, 2, 1. The screen lit up again across America. Michael Hayes smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Welcome back to the briefing. Before the break, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett made some strong remarks about leadership in Washington. Mr. Patel, any response?" Patel didn't answer immediately. His voice, when it came, was slow, clear, and deliberate. "There's power in words," he said, looking directly into the camera. "But sometimes the people who are best at talking are the same ones who forget who helped them get there." The camera cut to Jasmine. She smiled politely, but her eyes narrowed slightly. "Sounds like someone's bitter." "I'm not bitter," Patel said, "but I remember." He didn't look at her. He looked past her, right at Jasper Crockett. Jasmine followed his gaze, briefly, but only saw rows of blurred audience, faces under studio lights. Still, something cold brushed the back of her mind, a flicker of unease. But she shook it off. Meanwhile, in the security booth, the system had finally returned a 95% facial match. "Sir," one technician said to the head of network security, "the man in seat 35 is almost certainly Jasper Crockett. Confirmed military ID number on the badge. It's real. Very old, but real. Contact Homeland," the security chief muttered. Now. 10 years earlier. Libya. A younger Jasper Crockett stood on a rooftop, headset crackling in his ear. Gunfire echoed in the distance. Smoke rose over the desert horizon. He barked into the mic. "Pull the envoy now! They're not safe!" The voice on the other end hesitated. "Orders are to hold." "Who gave that order?" Jasper demanded. There was silence. Then a different voice came through, calm, polished, female, young. "Dad, don't make this harder than it is." Jasper froze. Jasmine's voice. She was just a junior legal advisor back then. Eager, sharp, ambitious. "Pull out now, Jazz," he whispered. "You don't know what you're standing next to." But she did, and she didn't. Because that call was recorded, later edited, and used to blame him for the loss of American lives. To protect her rising career. Present day. The debate continued. Jasmine pushed back against Patel's words. "I've earned my place," she said. "Not through silence, not through shadows, through facts, policy, and the public's trust." The audience applauded. But behind the applause, Patel's eyes didn't leave Jasper. And Jasper. He moved his hand. Just slightly. 2 fingers tapped once against his knee. A signal. Across the country, in a secure facility in Arlington, Virginia, a dormant command. System received the signal. No passwords, just biometric input. The screen lit up. Target reactivated. Crockett, J. Back on stage, Jasmine leaned into the mic, her voice rising. "I don't answer to ghosts," she said sharply. But then, she froze. She had said it almost jokingly. But the word ghosts echoed strangely in her ears. For the first time, she looked directly into the 3rd row, into the eyes of a man she hadn't seen since she was 26. For a moment, just one, her heart stopped. "Dad?" The camera didn't catch it, but Patel did. He leaned forward and whispered, "Now you see it." The moment her eyes locked with his, Jasmine stopped hearing the audience. She couldn't feel the room anymore. Not the lights, not the cameras, not the applause that had seemed so constant only seconds before. Her father, Jasper Crockett, was alive. And worse. He was sitting just meters from her, not backstage, not in private, but in the front row of a live broadcast. She hadn't seen him in a decade. Not since that call. Not since she told the committee he had failed to report a hostile ambush. Not since the Pentagon declared him missing and presumed dead. He had never contacted her, never corrected the story, never defended himself. So why now? Why here? Her hand trembled slightly, and she lowered it under the desk, pressing it to her leg to steady it. But her eyes didn't leave his, and he didn't blink. Patel, now leaning back again, whispered quietly. He waited. Not to confront you privately, but to remind you in front of the world. The host, Michael Hayes, unaware of the history, unraveling between his guests, tried to steer the conversation back on track. Let's move to the next topic: foreign intelligence leaks and government accountability. Congresswoman Crockett, given your background on the Intelligence Oversight Committee. But Jasmine's voice cracked as she interrupted. I need a minute. Michael blinked, caught off guard. Patel didn't move. For a second, the broadcast didn't cut. Viewers saw Jasmine push back slightly from the table, her hands barely trembling. Then the screen faded to a brief technical break graphic. Backstage, producers began scrambling. Hayes was being updated in his earpiece. And security personnel were making their way toward Jasper Crockett, but not fast enough. Because in those 90 seconds, the past began rewriting the present. 7 years ago, Congressional Hearing Room 6B. Is it true, the chairman asked, that you had direct communication with your father, Jasper Crockett, before the incident in Benghazi? Jasmine, then a young and rising legal advisor, had only seconds to decide. Admit to unauthorized communication, or deny it and protect her rapid political rise. I hadn't heard from my father in over a year, she said calmly. He was no longer in contact. I had no involvement in any chain of command. The room remained still. The camera lights stayed steady. And with that one answer, her career remained intact. Jasper Crockett vanished from the official story. And Jasmine rose through the ranks like fire on dry leaves. Present day. Studio hallway. Jasmine moved quickly, her heels clicking across the floor. She pushed through a side door into the green room, trying to breathe, trying to think. Her aide followed close behind, whispering, "What happened out there?" She turned sharply. "That man in the third row. Did you see him?" "The older guy in the gray suit? Security's already on it. No credentials, but his name is Jasper Crockett," Jasmine said, her voice almost cracking. "He's my father, or he used to be." The aide froze. "But he's dead, right? That's what... He was never dead." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "He just disappeared. And I let them write the story." Suddenly her phone buzzed. A secure line. Unknown encrypted caller. She hesitated. Then answered. A voice came through. Low, calm, deliberate. "You always did speak too soon." Jasmine nearly dropped the phone. "Dad?" "You have 3 hours before they lock the exits," the voice said. "They know I'm here, but they don't know why." "Then why are you here?" she asked. "To destroy me? In front of the country?" "No," he said. "To tell you what they made me do." A pause. "And what they made you forget." The line went dead. Meanwhile, control room, Washington, D.C. A senior NSA analyst leaned forward. On a large screen in front of him were 3 redacted files, slowly being decrypted. "Sir, file unlock initiated from a military badge code last used in 2016, his assistant said. "No external signal, local activation only." "What's the file ID?" the analyst asked. "Crockett Protocol, folder marked Monarch, phase reversal." He blinked. That was buried with the 42nd Committee. Only one living name was left attached to that document. The screen loaded the name. Rep. Jasmine Crockett. Back at the studio, commercial break ended. Jasmine re-entered the stage slowly, her face pale, her expression unreadable. "Michael." Hayes gave her a glance. "We're good." She nodded, just barely. The cameras rolled again. This time Patel spoke first. "Congresswoman, before we continue, I'd like to ask you a question." She turned toward him. "Yes?" He leaned forward, voice quiet but sharp. "What else have you buried?" The air in the studio changed. It wasn't about lights or temperature. It was something older, instinctive, like the moment before a lightning strike when the sky holds its breath. The audience felt it. Even the cameras seemed hesitant, as if unsure where to focus, and Jasmine Crockett, who had ruled the room with her voice and wit for nearly an hour, was now silent. Cash Patel's question had pierced something she couldn't cover with charm. "What else have you buried?" She didn't answer. Not at first. Her eyes drifted, unintentionally, toward the third row again. Her father, stone-faced, still. The producers fed Hayes a new line in his earpiece. He stepped in, trying to lighten the mood. "Let's pivot for a moment." But Jasmine interrupted, voice low. "No, let him speak." The crowd murmured. Patel straightened in his seat, surprised but calm. "Are you sure?" She nodded once. "Say whatever it is you came here to say." Patel placed his palms on the table. 5 years ago, I was offered a file, one that was supposed to stay buried in a Pentagon subchannel. Monarch, phase reversal. I turned it down. Hayes looked up. "That's classified material." Patel didn't flinch. "It's no longer classified. Not since your father used his badge to unlock it live on government surveillance systems 2 hours ago." The screen behind them, the one used to show live tweets and poll results, flickered. Then it changed. Jasper Crockett, clearance. Level, Phoenix access, Monarch protocol. In seconds, the story went from political theater to national emergency. Hayes swallowed hard. Okay, we're going off air for a moment. No, Jasmine said. Let the people hear it. But her voice no longer sounded like a politician's. It was quieter. Human. The screen behind them changed again. A document loaded line by line, the redactions peeling away. It showed internal memos, timestamps, names. It named her. 2021. Representative Jasmine Crockett requests permanent burial of Operation Monarch under Congressional Oversight Clause 7. And beneath that, a digital signature. Hers. The crowd gasped. Hayes stood. We need to end this now. But Patel raised a hand. Let me finish. Crockett didn't stop him. In 2015, Patel said, his voice even and sharp, a covert operation in Benghazi was compromised, not by foreign actors, but by a U.S. intelligence split. Two factions. One wanted to extract local informants, the other wanted to eliminate them, clean the slate. He looked straight at Jasmine. Your father chose the first option. He tried to save lives. And when he did, the second faction marked him as unstable, disposable. The room went cold. Patel continued. They approached a young legal advisor in D.C., freshly appointed, rising fast. They told her that if she didn't testify against her father's actions, she'd lose everything. They offered her a choice. Stay silent and sink with him, or rewrite the story and rise. And now, every lens turned to Jasmine. She sat still, her face blank, her fingers intertwined tightly under the desk. Hayes stammered, Is this true? Silence. Jasmine inhaled sharply. You have no idea what they threatened me with. It wasn't just a job, it was my life, my security clearance, my mother's retirement, my younger brother's college tuition. They held every string. Patel didn't argue. He only asked, And when your father disappeared, why didn't you look for him? She didn't answer. Behind her, the screen showed the last line of the file. Jasper Crockett presumed dead, by approval of Rep. Jasmine Crockett, Clause 9, expedited. Her voice broke. I thought he was gone. I thought it was over. I believed them. The crowd sat in stunned silence. Then, from the back of the studio, a new voice echoed out. Low, measured, unmistakable. You believed what was easier. Everyone turned. Jasper Crockett stepped forward. No spotlight was on him, but every camera swiveled. No one moved to stop him. He approached the stage slowly, not with anger, not with showmanship, but like a man arriving not to accuse, but to remind. I never asked you to save me, he said quietly. I only hoped you wouldn't forget who I was. Jasmine's eyes filled with tears. She stood, but he didn't come closer. I didn't come to ruin you, Jasmine, he said. I came to warn you. They're not done with you yet. A chilling silence returned. Hayes, still stunned, asked, Who's they? Jasper turned to Patel. They're not here to argue. They're here to reset the board. And tonight, she just became the liability. The studio lights dimmed slightly. A low buzz filled the speaker system. Patel stood up. Shut down the feeds. A producer ran in. We're being cut. Satellite relay just dropped signal to all platforms. Someone's forcing blackout. Hayes looked around. We're off air? No, Patel said, looking directly at the exit sign. We're under lockdown. No phones worked. No satellite uplink. No Wi-Fi. Even the studio's internal comms were jammed. a total communication blackout. The control room's screens flickered with static, blinking red. Inside the auditorium, tension was no longer dramatic. It was operational. Michael Hayes stepped away from his desk and whispered sharply to a producer. "Who has control of the building's signal feed?" "They're saying it's not internal," she answered. "Looks like an outside override. Military grade." Patel had already moved off the stage. He reached into his coat, removed a black badge, and showed it to a trembling intern near the backstage hallway. "Level 6 clearance," he said. "I need access to the secondary terminal. Now." Back. On stage, Jasmine Crockett remained standing. Her eyes followed her father, who hadn't moved from where he'd spoken, third row, aisle seat. But something was shifting inside her. Not guilt, not fear, recognition. For years, she'd seen him as a symbol of failure, someone who disappeared at the worst time in her life. She never imagined that his silence had been survival. And now, she was facing what he had endured. She stepped forward, trying to steady her voice. "What do they want now?" Her father looked up. "They want the same thing they always did. Control. You were their solution. Now you're a variable." She whispered, "They're going to come for me, aren't they?" He nodded once. "They're already here." Patel returned moments later, speaking fast. "We're not just under surveillance. We're being rerouted. Feeds from this building are being tunneled through an unlisted DC node. That's a shadow broadcast. Protocol." Hayes blinked. "Meaning?" Patel looked directly at him. "It means someone else is watching, and they're deciding who walks out of here." Cameras still rolled silently. No networks, no viewers. Just data, collected and redirected. The kind of silence that meant everything was being recorded, but nothing would be aired. Suddenly, the emergency doors clicked shut. Magnetic locks. The security lights changed to amber. "We're sealed in," a tech whispered. Jasmine looked around. Her voice was clear, almost too calm. "Who runs this protocol now?" "Not you, Cash?" "No," Patel said. "Not anymore." A sudden beep came from the corner. A tablet, meant for cue cards and segment timings, lit up with a new screen. "Incoming transmission. Authorized viewers only." The audience froze. Everyone instinctively turned. A black window appeared and then a face emerged. Crisp suit. Clean desk. A flag behind him, but no emblem. The kind of visual built to be anonymous and unforgettable. He spoke with no emotion. "Congresswoman Crockett. Mr. Patel. Director. Crockett, you are part of an unscheduled security review. This conversation is now classified under Emergency Operations Charter 19. Jasmine stepped forward. "This is an ambush," the voice replied smoothly. "This is a recalibration." Hayes tried to interrupt. "This is a journalism studio. You can't just—" "You are irrelevant," the voice said. "And soon forgotten." Silence. The figure on screen leaned forward slightly. "We do not seek to eliminate you, Jasmine. We seek to absorb you. You were loyal once. You can be loyal again." She clenched her jaw. "By lying?" "By remembering who placed you where you are." Behind her, her father's voice came, tired but firm. "She remembers. That's why she's dangerous now." Jasmine turned to the screen. "You can erase feeds. You can lock doors. But what you can't do is make people unsee what they've seen." The man tilted his head. "Then we'll remove the witnesses." The studio lights flickered, briefly, then shut off. A scream echoed from the back. Security agents, unmarked, stormed in through a side hallway. Black helmets, taser rods, tactical boots. No insignias. Chaos erupted. The audience panicked. A few ran. Most froze. Hayes tried to shield his face as lights from flash devices blinded him. Jasper Crockett moved fast. He grabbed his daughter by the wrist. "Come now." Patel ducked behind the host's desk, pulling out a handheld beacon from his coat. One agent lunged toward Jasmine. Jasper knocked him off balance with a steel chair. The second agent raised a shock baton. Patel fired the beacon, which lit the studio with a blinding pulse. An electromagnetic burst. Their weapons failed. Sparks flew. A producer shouted, "Exit C is open." Jasmine hesitated. She looked at the cameras, still red, still blinking. She turned to Patel. "They'll spin this. Say we attacked first." "They already wrote that version," he said, grabbing her hand. "We have to survive long enough to tell the real one." Together, with her father, they ran. Behind them, security scrambled. Lights returned, but the faces of the attackers were already gone. Cameras, too, had gone black. The broadcast had ended. But the real story had just begun. They ran down, a stairwell that seemed too narrow for history to pass through. But that's what was happening. 3 lives, 3 very different paths, now converging in a concrete escape tunnel beneath a television studio that had just become a battlefield. Jasmine Crockett had no time to catch her breath. Her heels echoed violently on the metal steps. Behind her, Patel moved like a soldier in familiar territory, precise, unshaken. Her father, older but eerily calm, took the lead. Jasmine finally spoke. "You knew they'd come?" "I knew they'd watch," her father said, not turning around. "But I didn't know they'd act this fast. You could have warned me. If I had, would you have believed me?" She hesitated. No answer. The hallway opened into a maintenance bay. Dim lights buzzed overhead. No one followed yet, but the silence felt temporary. Patel stopped, pulled out a sat phone. "If they're blocking local signals, we need to hit satellite direct. Static." Then a faint beep. A signal. Weak, but alive. "I can connect to a secure node in Zurich," he said. "Encrypted line. But we only get 90 seconds before they track the source." Jasmine looked at him. "Who do we call?" He met her eyes. Someone who used to believe in the truth. Before, they got tired of losing. He keyed in a number. A strange ringtone, like a mechanical breath, buzzed through the air. A woman's voice answered. Calm. British. Hardened. "This is Alina. Go." Patel didn't hesitate. Operation Echo. Failed. Phase 2 compromised. Director Crockett was activated. We need clean extraction and full document dump. Silence on the other end. Then, confirmed. 10 minutes. North exit. Upload starting now. "Thank you," he said. "You'll owe me a country." She replied. Click. Patel turned to Jasmine. That was Alina Farouk. She used to run intelligence deconflict for Interpol before she turned rogue. Now she leaks what matters and buries what doesn't. Jasmine raised an eyebrow. "So we're trusting rogues now?" Patel nodded. "Rogues have nothing left to lose. That makes them honest." Suddenly, her father leaned against a wall. His breathing was heavy. "Dad?" She rushed over. "Are you hurt?" He waved her off. "No, just been a long time since I ran this fast." She smiled despite herself. Then her expression hardened again. "What was your role in all this? Why were they afraid of you?" He looked up at her, sweat running down his brow. "They weren't afraid of me. They were afraid I'd talk. About what they did. What we were part of. What we were forced to silence." Jasmine frowned. "Which is?" He straightened. In 1999, they ran an internal simulation. They called it the Hollow Pillar Project. Purpose: train a new generation of politicians not to lead, but to perform. Manufacture charisma, bury conscience, and place them where resistance would fail. Jasmine froze. You think I'm one of those? I think you were supposed to be. Patel added, but you kept thinking for yourself. That made you unstable in their eyes. She sank to the floor. For the first time since the broadcast, she looked shaken. All these years, she said softly, I thought I was building something real. You were, Patel said gently. You just didn't know whose blueprint it was. A low hum began vibrating the walls. A black SUV turned the corner at the far end of the corridor. Its headlights cut through the shadows. Is that them? Jasmine asked. Her father nodded. That's Alina's team. As the vehicle stopped, the back doors flung open. 2 people in gray tactical gear stepped out. No weapons drawn, just urgency in their steps. Move, one of them said. You've got 90 seconds before the reroute squad finds this tunnel. Inside the vehicle, a large case lay open on the seat. Dozens of drives, blinking blue, connected to a satellite node. On the screen, live document transfer 43% complete. What's being uploaded? Jasmine asked. Patel looked at her. Your father's memory. She blinked. What? Jasper Crockett pulled out a small neural recorder from his jacket. They forced us into silence for decades, but I recorded everything, every briefing, every name, every backroom deal. They couldn't find it, because I buried it. Here. He tapped his temple. Patel added, that data will break them, but only if the world sees it. Jasmine stepped into the SUV. She felt the weight of something bigger than revenge. This was history, clawing its way into daylight. The upload hit 100%. Transfer complete. The driver shouted, We've got company. Black vans appeared at the far end. Government plates, no lights. The SUV took off. Tires screamed against concrete. Behind them, figures in suits sprinted with weapons drawn. Too late. As the SUV roared out of the maintenance exit, Jasmine looked back through the rear window. The SUV sped through the dark service roads behind the studio. Jasmine Crockett's heart pounded as streetlights flickered past. Beside her, Cash Patel sat calm but alert, scanning the rearview camera. In the back seat, Jasper Crockett clasped a small recorder, the key to everything. Where to? Jasmine asked, voice tight. Safe house, Patel replied. Then straight to the network. They'll air the files tonight. Jasmine nodded. No more hiding. They turned onto a freeway ramp. Headlights from unmarked cars followed at a distance. Jasmine's eyes flashed to the side mirror. They're still on us, she said. Patel tapped the dash. A button lit up. Signal jammer. He flipped it on. Behind them, the taillights of 2 pursuers winked out like dying fireflies. They exhaled. Good work, Jasmine said softly. But what comes next? Patel glanced at her. Public hearing, congressional inquiry, full exposure. He touched her hand. You lead, we support. At that moment, the recorder in the back clicked twice, then played Jasper's voice in Jasmine's earpiece. Jasmine, if anything happens to you, the truth still stands. I believe in you. She swallowed hard. The memory of her father's sacrifice flooded her. His silent move in the studio, risking everything to ignite this moment. Ahead, the city skyline glowed. Neon and sirens, a world unaware of the storm now breaking. They pulled into a nondescript garage. Patel killed the engine. Jasmine and her father climbed out, stepping onto cracked concrete. An unmarked door opened. Alina Farouk waited inside with 2 operators. They led Jasmine through narrow corridors lined with blinking servers. This is the live uplink, Alina said. Once you're on air, there's no going back. The world will see every file. Jasmine steadied herself. She saw the faces of her father and Patel in the screen's glow. Trust, hope, and fear mingled. There. She nodded. Let's do it. They entered a small studio stacked with monitors. A producer pressed go. The red on-air light shone. Jasmine took a deep breath and faced the camera. She spoke clearly, her voice carrying the weight of truth and resolve. My name is Jasmine Crockett. Yesterday, I let fear guide my choices. I believed lies that forced my father into silence and nearly cost our integrity. Today, I'm here to set the record straight. Behind her, monitors displayed documents, memos, video clips, Jasper's recorded briefings. She continued, These files expose a plan to manufacture leaders. Actors sworn to obedience, not service. They altered history, manipulated policy, and silenced those who stood for truth. My father tried to warn them. I tried to protect myself, but no longer. The screens shifted through email chains showing offers of bribes, threats against careers, and secret orders to bury monarch protocol. Each revelation landed like a thunderclap. Patel appeared beside her, adding, I decline to hide this. I stand with Jasmine because integrity matters more than ambition. Jasper stepped in, voice steady. I carried these memories in my mind, in my recordings, waiting for the right moment. That moment is now. Outside, people gathered around TVs in bars, homes, and city squares, the hush before awakening. Jasmine's voice rang out one last time. I ask every American to demand accountability. We must choose leaders who serve, not perform, because our future depends on truth. She looked into the camera, tears in, her eyes but strength in her tone. Thank you. The broadcast ended. Silence. Then, the world spoke. News alerts blazed. Social media exploded. Politicians reacted. Some called for resignations, others for investigations. Headlines read, Crockett unveils government conspiracy. Father-daughter duo expose monarch plot. Jasmine Crockett redeems legacy. In a congressional hearing room the next morning, chairs were filled. Senators, reporters, and public watched as Jasmine Crockett, Cash Patel, and Jasper Crockett took the stand under oath. For hours, they testified. The evidence was clear, the story undeniable. By the end, the committee chairwoman spoke gravely. Congresswoman Crockett, you've done the nation a service. We will move to declassify all related materials and investigate those responsible. Jasmine exhaled, relief and resolve flooding her. Patel and Jasper nodded beside her. Later, she walked outside the Capitol into cool sunlight. Reporters shouted questions, but she paused to look at the building's pillars. She whispered, This is just the beginning. Behind her, Patel joined her and said quietly, You changed everything. She turned and smiled, a genuine, weary smile. We did. And as the crowd pressed forward, cameras flashing, Jasmine Crockett finally felt free to lead, not perform, to serve, not pretend, to stand, not hide, in full truth. The silent move that began it all had unleashed a reckoning no one could contain.